Simply here, Java has some unique features. Now the thing is what? The platform independent and the garbage collection. Okay, garbage collection. Now what's the mean by like a platform independent? Or suppose simply here, right now, I am using like a Windows platform. Okay, mine is Windows. Now my friend also using like a, suppose like he's using Linux. Okay, now here today I learned something Java. Okay, I executed some files. Now the files is like a that class file. Okay, my friend also wants to learn. Okay, you want to execute like this file. Simply here, I can send this file to like my friend, but my friend is using like a different platform. Okay, now I'm using like Windows, my friend is using Linux. Simply here you can execute it. Okay, why? In the sense like a Java is like a platform independent. It will not dependent on which type of platform are you are using. Okay, that's why we have like one slogan for this thing. It's Vora. Okay, now Vora in the sense like a write once, run anywhere. Okay, now write once, run anywhere. Now simply here. Now Java has like two unique features: the platform independent and garbage collection. Okay, what's I mean by the platform independent? I'm using like Windows. Okay, other person is using Linux. Okay, now I executed one file. Okay, now I generate like some dot class file. This dot class file I want to share with my friend. Simply here he can execute that file. Okay, why? In the sense the Java, it will not dependent on which type of platform you are using. Okay, that's why we have one slogan for this thing. Now Vora, write once, run anywhere. Okay, write once, run anywhere. For suppose we have like a .NET language here we have. Okay, for suppose by using .NET I'm learning. Okay, I have like one platform. Mine is like a Windows. Okay, my friend wants to execute like a, again he's also like a Windows. Okay, now I have some dot class file I want to share with my friend. Okay, in this case, simply you can execute. For suppose, okay, other person, okay, Linux simply here we have. Okay, simply here he cannot execute that. Okay, he cannot execute that. Why? In the sense that data is what like a platform dependent language. Now, what platform I'm using here, other person also need to be used that same platform. Okay, otherwise simply we cannot execute the same file. Okay, simply here the .NET is like that platform dependent language. Okay, now this is a difference between like platform independent. That's why the Java is like a platform independent language. It will not dependent on which type of platform you're using. Okay, now what's the mean by like a garbage collection? Simply here, what's the mean by garbage like general term? It's like a waste or simply trash, simply we can say that. But suppose like I want to play some PUBG game in that Samsung, normal Samsung phone. Okay, the Samsung phone has like a 4 GB RAM. Okay, but if you want to install like that PUBG, it will take like around like 2.5 something GB it will take. Okay, already your application is taking like 1.8 something. Okay, now your application, the PUBG application also consider like 2.8. Now, simply if you want to try to open that application, it will take a lot of time. And how much time you can play that? Okay, it's not possible. Why? In the sense, it will occupy that full memory space. Again, that extra cache files are okay generated in the background. Okay, but suppose if I have like 32 GB, simply here we can play the game. In the sense, like we have a lot of space. Okay, now whenever that some applications are running, the background some cache files are generating. Okay, now these cache files are removing automatically. Okay, in the Java. Okay, the person we have like, okay, now we have like one person. Simply the person name is like a garbage collector. Okay, the garbage collector is a person. Okay, who is collecting all unwanted data. Okay, for suppose simple here. Okay, I want to create like one project. Okay, that project need to be 1,000 variables. Okay, this project need 1,000 variables simply here. Okay, now in these 1,000 variables, right now for the future purpose, I created 1,000 variables. Okay, for the future purpose, I created 1,000 variables. But right now, I am using only one variable. Okay, this one variable, it will take in like a 4 bytes of memory space. Okay, sorry, here I wrote like 5. Okay, 4 bytes of memory space. Now, 1,000 variable in the sense like 1,000 into 4, 4,000 bytes. Okay, right now, how many variables you are using? Only one variable using. But remaining triple variables, memory space is a waste of memory only. That's why now whenever that unwanted memory space is created, automatically this garbage collector came into the picture. Okay, it will collect all unwanted data. Okay, it will remove that all the cache files. Okay, now for suppose if it is a CPP, now we need to write our own. Okay, we need to write the code for to remove like unwanted memory space, like unwanted files. But in Java, okay, it will done automatically. Okay, by using this garbage collection also, now nowadays we'll get like some improvement in the performance in Java. Okay, now
Remaining variables are deleted.
no variables, it's not going to be deleted. The space is going to be deleted. Just variables are declared. Okay, whenever variables are declared, and after that I want to initialize. If you want to initialize, it will take some memory space. Okay, that space is going to be deleted. Why? In the sense, right now I'm not using. Okay, whenever we are using, we need some memory space. For suppose the laptop I'm using right now. Okay, if I want to like play some, if I want to play somewhere, we need some space. Okay, within the air we cannot place it, right? Simply, if you want to use it, now we need to some space. Okay, the variables also like that. Okay, now that is it. Okay, that is a difference between like a platform independent and garbage collection. Okay, now the most and important concept now in every technology we have this concept. Okay, the concept is called variables. Okay, now without knowing that variable concept, simply it's a waste of to learn Java or any language, not only here. Okay, now observe carefully here. What is the mean by the variable? Okay, now variable is a container. Okay, variable is a container or a location where we can store values. Okay, where we can store our values. Okay, for suppose simply here, one person called you today. Okay, now you want to call him again like after 2 days. Okay, how we can call? Number or name. Simply here, without storing, is it possible to call that person? Simply that number we need to store in our brain memory or our phone memory. Now, without storing that number, simply we cannot call him. Means what? Whatever the value you want to store, we need some memory space. Okay. Now, what's the syntax for that? For suppose simply here, variable name. Okay. Now, sorry, data type space variable name assigning operator. Now value or data. Okay, now here data type variable name and assigning operator value or data. Okay, this is syntax for the variables. Then how we can represent this thing? Observe carefully here. I'm going to represent some values, but suppose I want some salary. Okay, I want some like I want to select some marks. Okay, int marks is equal to 78. Okay, now int is a data type, marks is a variable name, assigning operator, 78 is value. For suppose simply here, I want to check the salary. Okay, now double I want to take double like a salary is equal to 67 point like a 89. Okay, this is a salary. For suppose I want to store some name. Okay, now string name is equal to simply here I'm going to make it as like a 80. Okay. Now observe carefully here. The marks and salary name is a variable name, that's okay. These are the values, that's okay. But what about like int double string? Okay. Now these are the data types. Now before going to that variable concept, first we need to know that what is the data type. Okay. Now, okay, data type. Now what is the data type? Simply observe carefully here. Marks in the sense like 78. Okay, in the sense like this is 78 is related to into type. Okay, now which type of data we are storing in this variable name, the type we need to mention. Okay, now for suppose the key is like string type. Okay, now 67.8 it's a double type, means what? Which type of value we are storing in this variable name, the type we need to mention. Okay, now that is a data type. Are you clear? Yeah, double is a data type, int is a data type, string is a data type. Okay, now observe carefully here. Now, which type of data? Okay, now we are storing into variable name. Okay, is called. Okay, it's a data type. Okay, means what? 78 is the value. Type of value is what? Int only. For suppose simply here, int marks in the simply here like Satya. Is it okay? Can I mention like that? Marks in the sense like we cannot say our name. Okay, we need to say like some number. Okay, any number. For suppose 56. Okay, the 56 is what int type. The type we need to mention. Okay, now Java is like a static typing. Okay, but JavaScript is a dynamic typing. Okay, it's a mandatory to use the data types in Java. Okay, otherwise we are going to get compile time errors. Okay, it is a mandatory. Okay, static in the sense it's a mandatory to type it. But JavaScript, we don't need to type it. Okay, automatically the compiler will guess. But here, it's a mandatory type. That's why Java is like a what? Static typing. The first interview question, what is the difference between like Java and JavaScript? Okay, JavaScript is a dynamic typing. Java is like static typing. Okay. Now, if you want to add a typing concept in the for the JavaScript to learn the TypeScript. Okay, that's the point. Now, how many types of data types simply here? Okay. Now, in every language, simply here we have the two types. Okay. Now, two types of data types simply here. First one is like a primitive. Okay. Now, second one is like a non-primitive. Okay. The first one is like a primitive. The second one is non-primitive. Okay. Now, what are the primitive data types simply here we have? Okay. In the interview room, what how we are going to say in the sense like a flight, float and a double. Okay. We need to give some gap. Okay. Simply. Now, don't say like that. Simply here. Now, byte short int long, float double, char boolean. Okay. Simply objectively. Byte, short. Okay. Now, int, long, again float. Okay. Again double and char and boolean. Okay, now how many types of data types in the sense like the answer is what? Two. How many primitive data types in the sense? 8. Okay, how many data types in the sense like two, primitive and non-primitive. Okay, how many types of primitive data types in the sense? It's a 8. Byte short int long, float double, char boolean. Okay, now byte short int long is used to store the numbers. Okay, it is used to store numbers. Float and double, it is used to store decimals. Okay, it is used to store the decimal values. Now, char is used to store the characters. Okay, to store characters. Okay, now boolean is used to store what? The logical values. What are the logical values we have? Now, true and false, simply here. Okay, now byte short int long, float double, char boolean. Observe carefully here. To store numbers, why we need this many data types? 4 data types we have to store numbers. Why? Okay, now one is not enough. Okay, why the 4? In the sense, we have some differences in the sizes. Okay, that's why they mention like a 4. Okay, now if one in the, for suppose some technology we have like a number only. If in the decimal or any number, you can store in the number type only. But here, if you want to store in the numbers, some types here we have. Okay, now one by one we'll see that. Okay, in the non-primitive, simply here we have like strings and arrays and objects and enums. All these things we have like in non-primitive data types. Okay, we have separate concept for this thing. I will discuss later. Okay, now first we'll discuss about like the primitive types. Now, what are the primitive data types we have? The byte short int long, float double, char boolean. Okay, now first one is like the byte one. Okay, now byte. Now byte, okay, it is also one of the primitive data type. It will accept simply here 1 byte space. Simply here the size is what? 1 byte. Okay, 1 byte in the sense like how many bits? 8 or 1024 or 16? 8 bits only exactly. Okay, now 1 byte in the 8 bits. Now we have some range. I said what? Byte short int long is used to store some numbers or sizes. Okay, what is the limit for that? Okay, now what is the maximum size? What is the min size? Okay, The maximum size is like 127. The minimum size is like minus 128. Okay, then how I can find out this range? Okay, I don't know like that how to find out the range simply here. Then how? Okay, I said like is what 127 minus 128. What did I say? But how can I find out that? Simply we have one formula for that. Okay, formula for that. Simply here minus 2 power n minus 1. 2. Okay, 2. Now 2 power n minus 1 of minus 1. Okay, consider this n minus 1 is a power. Okay, now observe carefully here. Then what is the value of n here? Anybody guess? In the screen only we have the answer. On the screen we have the answer. Anybody online? You can use the chat box. Okay, what does the mean by n? Okay, observe carefully here. N in the sense like the number of bits. Okay, now 2 power n minus n, this is 8 minus 1 7. Now 128 only. Now minus 128 to like 127. Okay, see here. Now this value is 128. Now of minus 1, like again 127. Now here, for suppose simply here I want to store some value. Now byte okay, b is equal to now 56. Now byte b1 is equal to simply here 345. Now byte b2 is equal to simply here yes. Now byte b3 is equal to Satya. For suppose now byte b4 is equal to 78.90. Now byte b5 is equal to simply here true. I'm going to mention. Okay, now which one is a valid and which one is a invalid? Any idea? All these things like b1, b2, like b5. Now first one is valid or invalid?
Valid.
It's a valid. Second one, why is invalid? It's out of the range. Okay, the range is what only 127 is used to store, but I'm trying to store the 345. What about like 249? This value, valid or invalid? Okay, objectively, sometimes valid, sometimes invalid. Why in the sense? Or suppose the range now here it's considered sometimes the ASCII value also. Okay, the ASCII value is more than 127, it's not going to be considered. Okay, the ASCII value is below that 127, it's can be considered. Okay, now this one it is invalid. Why in the sense? The byte is used to store numbers, but I am trying to store what? String type. How? It's not possible. Now again 78.90. It's a valid or invalid? It is also invalid. Why in the sense if you have the decimal simply here we cannot store in the number. Okay, that's why it is also invalid. Now the true. The true is used for the Boolean type, but I mentioned the type is what? Byte only. Simply we cannot store like the true values in the byte. Okay, simply here it is also invalid. Okay, next simply here short and okay, short type. Okay, the range of okay, the size of a short is 2 bytes. Okay, the 2 bytes. Okay, simply here the range is simply something we have like we don't need that ranges, but we need to remember the sizes. Okay, that's a matter. But suppose like 2 4 like 6 7 8 something is there. Okay, it's a maximum range. Now for suppose minimum range is what like minus 2 4 6 8 9. Okay, the range is like more than the thing, but same as like that. Simply the byte is used to store the numbers. Again short also we have some range. Okay, now rarely we are going to use. Okay, now basically simply here till 1 year simply I didn't use like short. Okay, simply here the frequently used data type is int type only in Java. Sometimes we are using byte or sometimes using the morely like frequently are using int only. But suppose simply here int size is like the 4 bytes. Okay, 4 bytes. For suppose simply here I want to store like my phone number. Okay, for my phone number. For suppose simply here something 10 numbers. Okay, this number I cannot store in the int. Okay, why in the sense? For suppose like earth is revolving around sun in the 365 days. The distance simply we cannot store in the int type. Simply we'll go for what? The long. Okay, why long in the sense? The long has 8 bytes. Okay, the long has 8 bytes. Now, for suppose simply here. Now, long L is equal simply here. Now, Satya. Now, again, long L1 is equal to 34, like point 89. Now, here, which one is a valid and which one is a invalid? Any idea? Hmm. Now, both are invalid only. Why? Satya is a string type. This value is a decimal type. How we can store in the number? Okay, that's why the both are invalid. Again, these are also invalid simply here. Okay, now these are the number data types in byte out into longer. Okay, next we have like a float. Okay, now float is a one of the data type. Okay, now it is used to store the decimal values. Then what is the maximum size of the float in the sense like the 4 bytes? Okay, 4 bytes. Now, but suppose the double also is used to store the decimals, but the size is the difference is 8 bytes. Okay, observe carefully here. I'm going to write something now. Float salary is equal to 890.90. Now, double bonus simply I'm going to use is equal to 90.90. Okay, now here both are valid in this case. Okay, both are valid only. Why in the sense float is used to use the decimal, but double is also used decimal. But the float is we are going to get compiled error. Why in the sense? Okay, if you are representing like this value is not related to the float. It's a value is related to the double. Then how I can differentiate that the float? In the sense, after that value simply you need to represent f. Okay, then only the value going to be considered float. Or otherwise, I don't want to use f, then change it to double here. Okay, or otherwise I don't want to change to double. I want to use float only, then make it as f. Okay, now if it's a float in the sense it's a mandatory to use that f. Okay, now double in the sense the normal value we can consider the double. Okay, that's the only difference between like a float and a double. Now the float and double after fraction like 5 to 6 decimals are allowed after precision. Now here we can allow like 14 to 16. Okay, after precision simply here. Okay, now float and double. Next, char. Okay, basically the character size simply in the if like for suppose the C language some backgrounds are there. Now they're going to guess like 1 byte, right? Okay, the character size is like 1 byte, but it's a old language simply. Okay, but in the case of Java, it's a 2 bytes. Okay, why? Listen, why 1 byte or why 2 bytes? Okay, in the old language we have like only 256 characters we have. Okay, it can follow like a ASCII format. Okay, it is following like ASCII format. Now, if you want to store like 256 characters, 1 byte is enough. But Java is like 2 bytes. Why? In the sense, here we have 16,335 characters. Okay, if you want to store this many characters, okay, 1 byte is not enough. That's why they change it to like 2 bytes. But Java is not following ASCII format. It's a following like a Unicode format. Okay, it's a following like a Unicode format. Okay, the Java can support 18 international languages. Okay, 18 international language. Now, 18 in essence like that, how many keywords simply here we have? Okay, that's why if you want to store this many characters, the 2 bytes is not enough. Okay, that's why simply we are going to use to store that 2 bytes only. Okay? Now, next the boolean. Okay, boolean. Now, the size of the boolean 1 or 2 or simply here depends on the JVM. Okay, depends on the JVM. Mostly sometimes we are going to use 1 byte, but sometimes it depends on the JVM. Now, what are the logical values? Observe carefully here. Now, boolean, okay, boolean b is equal to true. I'm going to write. Now, boolean b1 is equal to true. I'm going to write. Now, boolean b2 is equal to true. I'm going to write. Now, boolean like b3 is equal to Simply here false I'm going to write. Okay, now boolean b4 is equal to false I'm going to write. Okay, now here in this case, which one is a valid, which one is an invalid? First one valid, second one why? But I mentioned like true, right? That's why it's invalid. Okay, values are true, but the type is what? String type only. But here I mentioned boolean type. Okay, next one is what? Valid or invalid? Hmm? It's not a string. It is also invalid. Why? In the sense, in Java, any word is starting with a capital case, that should be the class. But the true is not, it's a value, right? It's not a class. Okay, again this one, invalid. Okay, this one, invalid again. Okay, now this is the way now we can represent like the types in here. Okay, now we have like types of, how many types of primitive data types we have? Byte short int long, float double, char boolean. Okay, now I hope you're clear with like data types. Okay, if you have any doubt, just let me know. Anyone? Clear? Okay, I hope you're clear, right? I will go with like a variable. Okay, now in the syntax we completed like data type, right? Okay, what is the data type? How many types of data types we have? All these things. Now we'll go with like the variables name. Okay, the most and important concept in the variables, the dangerous, the easiest concept. Okay, now observe carefully here. Now already we know that what is a variable. This is like it's a location or a container where we can store our values. Okay, what are the values we can store in the variables? Now we can store like different types of values. If you observe that simple like video, I will show you that. Observe carefully. What's the variable in the sense? Now see, if I open that,
ultimate అవుతుందంటే పెట్టెలో ఇంకెట్టుంటుందో అంతాడమయం ఈ జగమంతా గోళమయం ఈ జగమంతా నగలమయం.
now simply here the data type in the sense like we can store any type, sorry, variable in the sense like it's a container where we can store our number of values, any types of data simply here. Okay, now here the variables also two types. Okay, the variables also the two types. Okay, the first one is like a local variable. Okay, now the second one is like a global variable. Okay, the local variable and a global variable. Now what is the difference between them? Okay, the local variable we can declare okay, we can declare inside the method. Okay, inside the method. What's the difference, like what is the mean by that, like inside the method? Observe carefully here. I'm going to take like one example. Now class tester, simply class should be open. Now, again like main method, right? Now we have like a PSVM. Okay, now PSVM is public static void main. Now here if I within the method, this is also method, right? Even though it's a predefined method, it's also method. Now here I'm going to declare some method int age is equal to 89. Okay, it's a one variable, right? Now this variable called local variables. Okay, inside the method, either user defined method or predefined method. Now where we can store our values inside the method, simply we can say those variables call local variables. Okay, now what about like global variables? Now we can declare, okay, we can declare outside the method. Okay, outside the method or inside the class. Okay, outside the method or inside the class. Observe carefully here. Outside the method in the sense like either this location or this location. Inside the class in the sense this location only, right? Simply here the T27, this is the location of inside the class. Now int again age is equal to 90. I want to store. Observe carefully here. Here int age is equal to 90. Here int age is equal to 90. But location is a different. Okay, now this age is I stored inside the class. That's why it's a global variable. Okay, now this age is inside the method I stored. That's a local variable. But the global variables are again divided into two types. First one is like a instance variable. Okay, instance variable. Second one is like a static variable. Okay, the first one is like instance variable, second one is like static variable. Now what is the difference between them, the instance and the static? Okay, now both are global variables only, we can declare inside the class only, but what is the difference between them? Observe carefully here. Now string name is equal to simply here Kirti I'm going to mention. Okay, now these both variables are global only, right? Okay, now why in the sense inside the class I declared. Now both are global variables only, but which one is the instance, which one is the static? Okay, simply in this case we cannot find out that which one is instance and which one is static. Now if it is a static, simply here we can mention the static keyword. Okay, observable. Data type, variable name, value, value. The next is what? Static. Okay, now without a static keyword, we can say it is an instance variable. Okay, now with a static keyword, we can say what? Static variable. Okay, now without understanding that variable concept, simply you cannot learn, you cannot access the predefined methods and classes. That is the most dangerous thing. Okay, now simply here within the class, simply here I'm going to use like global variables. The global variables are two types: instance variable and a static variable. Okay, now here these are the local variables. These local variables I'm going to use what within the method. Okay, observe carefully here. These global variables only. Okay, these global variables are we have some properties, four properties. If you understand these four properties, the variables done. Okay, it's most dangerous and important. Observe carefully. If you understand these 4 points, simply it's easy. Now, what are the four different properties for the global variables? Okay, now okay, global properties. It's not for the local, only global. Okay. Now, first syntax is what? Syntax difference, right? Global, instance, and local. Both are separate. Syntax different. Now, second one. Now, memory allocation. Okay, memory allocation. Third one, how to access or how to call or how to print. Everything is the same. Okay. Fourth one, when to go for. Okay, when to go for or when to use. Okay, now these are the four important points for like okay variables concept. Okay, now the variable concept will end up, and after that we are going to do that installation. Okay, observe carefully here. Syntax different, we have like global properties. Syntax different, memory allocation, how to access, and when to access. Okay, observe carefully here. Now syntax is what? For suppose simply here, without a static keyword, now we can say what? It is a instance variable. Okay, instance variable. How we can represent that instance variable? Simply here, int age is equal to 90. Okay, now with a static keyword. Okay, with a static keyword, now we can say it is a static variable. Then how I can represent static variable? Now static okay, print marks is equal to 89. Okay, now we are representing only extra is what? The keyword only. Okay, if you have the static keyword, that is a static type. Okay, without static keyword, simply it is a instance type. Okay, now observe carefully here. I created int age is equal to 90. Okay, I created static int marks. That's okay. I created just it. But when the age is getting memory space, when the marks are getting memory space. Okay, now we are creating a variable, we initialize it, that's it. Then when these properties will get memory space, when instance properties will get memory space, when the static properties will get memory space. Observe carefully here. Now, static properties, okay, now will get, okay, memory space at the time of, okay, at the time of class loading into, okay, class loading into JVM. What's in the class in the sense what? It's a dot class file. Okay. Now, whenever our dot class file is loading into the JVM, then all the static properties will get the memory space. Okay. Now, simply here, instance properties. Okay. Instance properties will get memory space. Okay. At the time of, okay, at the time of object creation. Okay. Now, object creation, it's separate thing. Now, I'm going to explain, no issues on that. Okay. Now, online. Okay. Wake up. Don't sleep. Okay. I hope like you are sleepy, right? Now, memory allocation. Static properties will get memory space at the time of class loading into JVM. Now, instance properties will get memory space at the time of object creation. Now, here, I created variable. Okay. Now, these variables are getting memory spaces. That's okay. But how I can print it? Okay. How I can call it? Okay, how I can access it? Now, if it is a static properties, okay, static properties, now we can access by using class name. Okay, by using class name, we can access that. Okay, by using class name, we can access. What about like instance properties? How I can access, how I can call it, how I can print it. Now, by using object reference. Okay, now you have one doubt, like what is object reference in sense? This object reference we are going to get at the time of object creation. Okay, now whenever we are creating object, we are going to get object reference. By using this object reference only, now we can call, we can print. Okay, observe carefully here. Now, when to go for instance, when to go for static. Okay, now I will share the notes, no issues on that. Okay, now when to go for static, when to go for instance. Now, simply I created a variable. Okay, these variables are getting memory spaces. That's okay. Now I can access. But when to go for instance, when to go for static. Okay. Now, simply for suppose simply here, we have like 1,000 students in the school. 1,000 students have like 1,000 ID cards. Okay. Now each and every card, what is the difference between them? Unique student ID. Exactly. That's good. For suppose the same students, what is the common name for the each and every ID card? Class is the same for 1,000 students. School name. Okay. Observe carefully here. Now, for suppose if I consider school name, now where's the circle? Okay, now it is a circle simply here. Okay, now I'm going to store like a, I'm going to store like simply here one school name. But suppose simply here like a ZPHS. Okay, this is school name. Now here we have a 1,000 students here we have. Okay, 1,000 students. 1,000 students need to be accessed 1,000 times. Okay, simply here like this here we have object here. Now, okay, now 1,000 times ZPHS. Okay, 1,000 students. Now it's a waste of memory location for the ZPHS. 1,000 times I'm writing ZPHS. Now without writing all these things, sorry. Now without writing all these things, simply ZPHS is only one. Okay. Now I am going to access the 1,000 students are like what? Okay, 1,000 students are taking like a same location. 1,000 students, same location. Okay. Now, in this case, what the jet page is only will take like 4 bytes, but 1,000 members are accessing the same location. Here we are saving that memory space. Okay. Now, whenever that common properties are there, okay, whenever that common properties will go for the starting. Okay. Now, whenever that unique properties are there, simply will go for initialize. Okay. Now, that is the difference between like what's that, like instance and like static properties. Now simply here, first we are creating. Okay, now these variables will get the memory spaces, then I access it. Now when we'll go for like static and when we'll go for like instance, based on the common instance we'll go for static. Okay, if it is a unique we'll go for instance. Okay, observe carefully here. Now int age is equal to simply here 90. Okay, what is this one? It's a variable representation, right? Now observe carefully here. Int age, again age is equal to 90. Now int age is equal to 90. Now what is the difference between these three? The first thing we need to know in the variable concept, these three only. Okay, now int age semicolon, age is equal to 90, then int age is equal to 90. Okay, now this part we can call it's a declaration. Okay, now this part we can call like a assigning. Okay, I'm poor in spelling mistakes, don't comment in it. Okay, now int age is called 90. It is what? It's an initialization. Okay, it's an initialization. Okay, initialization is a combination of simply here declaration plus assigning. Okay, now sometimes they are going to give just to declare. Okay, later I want to use it. Okay, then after that I want to initialize some values. Okay, simply here declaration, assigning, and initialization plus assigning values. Okay, now for suppose simply here. Now what is the difference between single equal, double equal, triple equal? Any idea?
Single equal to
Mm.
ascending value.
Okay.
Double equal to comparison.
Okay. Mm.
Triple equal.
Okay, exactly. Now observe carefully here. Single equal, we are going to assign it. But suppose simply here, int age is equal to now 90, 78 something. Now here, for suppose simply here, int age is equal to 90. Now int age 1 is equal to 89. Okay. Now I want to make the difference. Simply here, I want to comparison like these values. Simply here, age double equal to age 1. Okay, I'm comparing it. Observe carefully here. The same thing here we have again age again age 1. Okay, for suppose simply here, observe carefully here. Now observe carefully here. Now age is what is the value? 90. Age 1 also value is the 90, but the type is what? String type. Means what? The triple equal operator will check the values as well as the type also should be same. Okay. Now in this case, it's a both are same. Now it's perfect. Okay. Means what? Double equal will check the only values only, but the triple equal will check the values with the type also. The both the type also should be same. Okay. Now that's about like variables and declare like data types. We'll see one example on the variables. Okay, before going to that, now we need one thing like object creation. Okay, how to create a object? Okay, how to create object? Now, why in the sense simply here in the case of memory allocation, I said what instant properties will get memory space at the time of object creation only. Then how to create object? Okay, now the syntax is what? Class name. Okay, now object reference. Okay, now the reference, this name should be, you can use any name. Okay, your name, your girlfriend name, boyfriend name, any name you can use it. No issues on that. Now class name object reference is equal to new keyword. It's a keyword. Now again class name. Okay, with parenthesis. Okay, but suppose simply here object here. Tell me that my class is what? Class is equal to test. Now here I have that main method PSVM. Okay, now tell me how object here. Okay, this is syntax for that. I created one class. Tell me that object creation.
Yes.
Now test any name, whatever you want, to T or OBG or anything, any name. But suppose like key T, you can write any name, no issues on that. Assigning operator. Again, new
Yes.
test, again parenthesis. That's it. Okay, this is about like object creation. Then what is the object reference here? What is the object reference here? The 389 line. What is the object reference? Keep only, right? No, Keith is the object reference simply. Okay, Keith is the object reference. Now we'll see that object over here. So we're going to download this Eclipse also right now. I will show you that. Now we'll explain like one example. The latter we go to that installation part. I hope like you are clear, right? If you have any doubts, just let me know. You can stop me. You can ask me. Okay. Now simply here first I will execute. I will create the project and I will execute. Later I will explain one more time. No issues on that. File, new, create the Java project like welcome. Okay, enter. Okay, after installation part, again I will explain, no issues on that. So just I'm going to explain like one example on that variables. New class like demo variables I'm going to write. Okay, demo is enough. Okay, I'm going to write like main method. I will show everything shortcuts also. Okay, now within the main method we can declare only one variable, that is local variables. Outside the method or inside the class, simply this is the location, global variable simply here. Now int age is equal to 89. Okay, now I want to print this age. Okay, what is the print statement in Java in the sense? System.out.println. Okay, the local variable simply here we can print directly. Okay, now how I can print in the sense? System.out.println. Now my age is simply here plus symbol and again age. Now why we are writing this plus symbol in the sense like concatenation? We are going to differentiate that. Okay, in the age value, within the age value we have 89, right? If you want to print 89, now we need to use the plus symbol concatenation. Otherwise, simply if I'm not using plus symbol, it is a confusing. Which one is a string? Okay, string in the sense double quotes only. But in this case, like out of the string I wrote, it is a confusing that. Okay, which one is the string part? That's why I'm going to differentiate that by using concatenation operator. Okay, control is save the file. See here we have like star mark. Since the file is not saved, file should be saved before going to execution. Okay, control is right click anywhere in the program. Now run as Java application. If you observe that here, now my age is 89. But suppose this age I'm going to write inside the double quotes. Now what will happen right now? Can I get the age 89? No. I'll get the age name only, but I cannot get the age value. If you want to get that, now simply we need to use like out of the string. Okay, right click on a Java application. Now we are going to get my age is 18. Now I want to represent like the student marks. I want to represent like instance variable. Now where we can declare instance variable? Outside the method or inside the class. Inside the class is the third line or fourth line. Okay. Now int marks is equal to 67. Okay, it is which variable it is? Instance variable. Okay, need to find out the location. That's why I'm saying like the variable is a dangerous concept. Okay, now for suppose I want to represent like the static also. For suppose object every here. String name is equal to Bahubali. Okay, now which one is the instance variable? Which one is a static variable? Both are instance. Why both are instance? There is no static keyword. Now for suppose now name is a static variable and marks is the instance variable. Okay, now I want to print like a name. Okay, simply here object every SYSO I want to print a name. But the name is which type? Static type. Okay, if it is a static type, how I can print that? How to access, how to call, how to print? If it is a static variable, how I can print? By using class name. What is the class name here? What's the class name here? Demo. Now demo dot here we have the name. Okay, variable. Now here. Control S, right click run as Java application. Now we are going to get like Bahubali. If you want to differentiate that here, we need to write some name. My name is simply here demo dot name. Okay, now here my name is Bob. I want to print 67 also. Okay, observe carefully here. Now SYSO, now marks I want to print. Now we are getting error. Why? Now it is instance variable. How I can call instance variable? By using object reference. If you want to get object reference, first we need to create what? What happened? Timer ఉంది మనకి. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you want to print these marks, first we need to check that marks is an instance type. Okay, if it is an instance type, we need to create an object. Okay, then how to create object? Tell me object creation. Anyone? Object creation. Class name. What is the class name? Demo. Demo reference object can be anything. D is equal to new keyword again demo with a parenthesis. Okay, object creation is done. Then how I can call that? Marks by using D. D is what? Object reference only. Now SYSO, like my marks is simply here. Now D dot marks. Here D dot marks. Control S, right click, run as Java application. Simply here my marks are 67. Observe carefully here. Something is we are going to get. Control copy and Control V. If I use dot, observe carefully here. Now, this many methods I didn't write in my class, but what are these methods? Okay, these methods are parent methods or object class. Okay, the first interview question before going to that, what is the super class of all Java classes? Okay, now that is a object class. You can write like 1 lakh classes in that here. The parent is the object only. Okay, now one more point. What is the default package in Java, in the sense like Java data lang package? These 2 points you need to remember. It's the most important in the questions. Okay, now okay, if you want to see that those methods here, observe away. If I mention like dot here, this many methods we can see, right? Okay, if you want to show that, now open CMD Java P Java dot lang dot object. Now say these many methods we have in this object class. Okay, here we are going to use some methods. Okay, we can see that. Okay, now this is about like the creation of variable, declaration of data types, all these things. Okay, now tomorrow we are going to discuss the constructors. Type is same. Representation is same. Whenever we are going to print it, now we need to differentiate that. Why? In the sense, static properties will get memory space at the time of that class loading into JVM, but instance properties will not. Whenever you created object, then only it will get the memory space.
Marks అనేది కూడా గ్లోబల్ కిందకి వస్తుంది.
రెండు మార్క్స్ నేమ్ అనేది రెండు గ్లోబల్ కిందకి వచ్చేస్తాయి.
దాన్ని యూస్ చేయాలని
యాక్సెస్ చేయాలంటే అదే చెప్పిన గ్లోబల్ వాల్యూస్ యాక్సెప్ట్ చేయాలంటే గ్లోబల్లో 2 టైప్స్ ఉన్నాయి మరి. ఓకే, స్టాటిక్ ఉంది, ఇన్స్టాన్స్ ఉంది. మరి ఇన్స్టాన్స్ ఎలా యాక్సెస్ చేస్తాం? ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేషన్ కంపల్సరీ. ఎందుకు? మనకు ఆబ్జెక్ట్ రిఫరెన్స్ కావాలి. ఒక ఆబ్జెక్ట్ రిఫరెన్స్ ఎందులో ఉంటుంది? విత్ ఇన్ ద ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేషన్. ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ ఇన్స్టాన్స్ వేరియబుల్ యాక్సెస్. బట్ హౌ వీ కెన్ యాక్సెస్ దట్ లైక్ స్టాటిక్ ఇన్ ద సెన్స్ బై యూజింగ్ క్లాస్ నేమ్. బేసిక్గా చూడండి, without using class name also I can print, but it's not mandated to print like that. It's not like a rule or it's not a fundamental. Okay, others can understand. That's why Like without like using class name also I can print names here. Right click, run as Java application. I can print it, but we cannot use like that. ఇలా ప్రింట్ చేయొచ్చు కానీ మనం యూజ్ చేయొద్దు ఇలా. ఓకే, ఎందుకంటే suppose you are working now as a developer, but after 2 years like you resign and one more person came to your like place. We also need to be understand like your code. That's why we need to follow the fundamentals. That's why class should be starting with a capital case. Okay, the variable should be starting with a lower case, camel case conversion. We need to write all these things. Okay.